Hello and welcome to the Athlete Podcast. Today I will be joined by Denham Hill, who is a not GB skateboarder but a professional skateboarder.
That's it.
You are GB certified though, aren't you, as a coach?
Yeah, for my coaching, so professional freestyle skateboarder, so
Awesome.
a little different to some of the skating you might have seen before, I suppose.
And that's what freestyle is all on flat, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So one way to think of it could even be like if you combine skateboarding, figure skating and breakdancing, mashed it all together, that's kind of what you get. So all flat ground, all about linking tricks together and different technical aspects as well.
And it's all in like a routine and you get like a set amount of time at a competition, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, it's 2-minute runs, which is a long time when you're up there. And all about linking different tricks together. So it's less about the tricks themselves almost and kind of more about what's in between them. It's about creating a routine that has flow and structure. Amazing. And including all the technical elements as well.
Yeah, of course. And it obviously being on flat ground requires quite a lot of creativity. I wouldn't say that it's probably the first skill that you need to be doing it. Probably be a good skateboarder before being creative. But I'm sure they sometimes go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
But I know that in the realm of skateboarding, you've been a very creative person. You've invented free tricks, so free signature tricks. But 4 tricks. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So in freestyle, you do have that kind of you've got that freedom of creativity. Maybe more so because you're using the board in kind of different ways to what you might do in street or park. Because you don't have any obstacles in freestyle, the board itself is the obstacle essentially. So you have to work around that. With that sort of freedom, you're able to invent different things. So I was the first to do a hang 10 coco wheelie, which probably doesn't make any sense to anyone, I did that for the first time, and then one of the Japanese skaters, Yuzuki, who's this incredibly talented skater, was holding them for ages, like a day afterwards. So a lot of the time you'll invent something or create something new, and it'll instantly get developed by other people. And part of the joy of freestyle is that sort of sharing of ideas as well, and skateboarding as a whole. And invented a couple of other tricks, a weasel pop, which is again might not make a lot of sense when I talk about it, but you're popping the board end over end and catching on the truck and then throwing it back down. So that's another one. There's another trick that I invented, which is the name of it is a little bit maybe not the best for a podcast. It's not necessarily rude, but
you can say it. We'll bleep.
It's a double entendre. It's called a. I won't tell you why. But yeah, that one's a you pull up into what's called a Casper disaster. You do a 180 rotation in the Casper disaster. You flip the board out, you catch on the nose, and then you pivot out front side.
Okay.
Again, that probably doesn't make any sense. It
sounds like I'm being pranked right now, to be honest.
Yeah. I guarantee you that's all real. Yeah, it's 100% real. And then there was another which I think I was the first to do. It's not always easy to figure out, but which is a truck stand 1.5 finger flip inward to a Casper, which again probably makes no sense.
Not really.
Yeah, it's skateboarding. We've got it has its own colloquialisms, it has its own terms, and sometimes when you're not within it, it's quite hard to explain things without physically showing somebody. But lots of an awful lot of complicated names for basically flipping a board a certain way. That's it.
A lot of what I know will just purely derive from playing Skate 3.
The
100%. Skate games growing up. So I know the basic things: ollie, nollie, kick flip.
That's the one that everyone shouts at you to do all the time.
Do a kick flip. I can imagine. I can imagine.
Definitely.
And I imagine that you can also just pop one of them like it's nothing.
Oh gosh, you know what? I feel like I can when no one's watching. Like it's always when someone shouts at you to do one, you know for a fact that that's going to be the time you can't do it. But my kickflips have got much more consistent since kind of working in a skate park environment, because you're guaranteed that at least once a day someone's going to probably ask you.
Can you do something? Oh, mate, can you do this? Can you do that?
This is it. Everyone's asking for tricks, but in a way that's good. It's good to kind of like be able to show what's possible on a board. Sometimes people who might not have a lot of knowledge of skateboarding or don't know, maybe haven't tried it out, if you can demonstrate a couple of things. You know, hopefully you can maybe inspire people, and maybe like kind of how I did. I saw it, thought it looked cool, and then wanted to try it myself. So yeah, hopefully it's hopefully people don't just ask for a demo like I'm a performing monkey. Hopefully they see it and then want to take that and do their own thing with it. You know.
I mean, like in everything, it's the boundaries that you put on somebody that forces them to be their most creative, isn't it? You know, to skirt around it, break outside the box that they've been put in.
Absolutely.
And so you just said then it was watching it and seeing it that got you into it. Do you want to talk a little bit about the time, you know, when you were younger and you were first getting into it? How did that all come together?
Yeah. So it makes me feel really old now, because like I realise that a lot of the kids I teach, you know, I'm maybe like the age of some of their parents. But like big boom in skateboarding. It comes in 10-year cycles roughly, and there was a massive one in the sort of early noughties. Yeah. And that's when I started. So a lot of my friends had boards. It was quite an in thing. It was all about big jeans and like, you know, like trouser chains and like loud music, all the good stuff that got me into skating. Yeah. And of course Tony Hawk's video games, that was a massive thing. And a lot of us were playing these Tony Hawk's games and wanted to sort of try it ourselves. So we got boards, we were just skating on the street, you know, not really doing anything amazing, just trying to figure it out. Because of course back then there was no YouTube or anything like that.
No,
you didn't have skateboard coaching readily available.
You had magazines. Magazines, things like that.
So yeah, we had mags like Sidewalk and other skateboarding mags. And what you'd do is you'd kind of peel through these things and try and find, you know, like how are they doing this, you know, and sort of trying to figure it out that way. And then there was, of course, you know, the internet did exist. I wasn't a dinosaur, you know what I mean? But there was websites like Bob's Trick Tips. Bob is a friend of mine and an amazing dude. And he basically compiled this huge encyclopedia of trick tips online, which a lot of freestylers in particular were learning from. And I learned quite a few tricks from that. So that's a big shout out to Bob Lofton, who has done an awful lot for the community.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it was tough getting started. It was really hard. You had to try and learn from your friends, and hopefully there was some skaters around that were better than you that you could kind of take some techniques from. I was terrible when I started skating. I was, out of all my mates, I was like the worst one at it, and I had the worst board to start with. But what I did have, I guess maybe not to disrespect them, but maybe more than they had, is I had a real desire to learn. It's something that as soon as I started doing it, I loved. And I just wanted to find a way to be good at it, not for any other reason other than it made me feel good to know that I'd learned something different.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and it gave you the space to develop individually, didn't it?
Yeah,
because everyone's on like their own. You said it earlier while we were talking, is that it's only really you versus you in skateboarding. It's not that can be versus the world kind of thing.
100%.
It's all you, and you have all of the time in the world to figure out and learn whatever you want to learn, and you can learn things. You know, it's not. I'd say the best way to put it is that it's non-linear, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
You don't 100%. Like you're going to end up learning an ollie and maybe a nollie and a kick flip first. But after that, you could go any which way you wanted. Really, you could learn. You could decide you want to learn the Casper disaster. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It might be out of your skill set, but like you don't have to stick to any one path. You can go learn whatever you want. You can develop however you want. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that's what makes it very desirable thing for a lot of people. They want to get into and be a part of. Definitely. You know, that and the community as well.
Yeah. I think that's it. That sort of non-linear. The nature of skateboarding being non-linear, I think, is what draws a lot of people to it. In a lot of more structured physical activities or sports or whatever you want to call them, there's these set things to follow, and there's a little bit of that in skateboarding. You know, you got to learn how to push, you got to learn how to turn, and you know, learning an ollie is going to help you obviously, but there's so many routes to go down. You could go down street, you could go skate park, you could skate freestyle like I do, you could do vert. There's all these different things it branches off into, and it's entirely up to you how you want to approach that as well. So it gives you so many options. Like the guys who don't want to throw themselves down a stair set, you can take up freestyle. You know, the guys who don't want to do freestyle and work on like more technical tricks, you could take up. I don't know. You could just use the thing to cruise around on. You know, there's a joy to be had in that. You know? Even if you just want it as like a mode of transportation.
Skating to school, skating to work, whatever it is, you know, you can do it.
Absolutely, man.
And that was it for me. It was always just cool. It was a cool way of getting around. It looked cool, and like by the time that I was getting into it, obviously like Skate Free and whatnot, they had everything going on with Thrasher and there was the Nike SB videos coming out. The ramp works were doing a lot on YouTube, and I was watching all those videos, and it was all, I don't know, it was like it had this feeling. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like this like where this is against what everything is. It goes against the grain of everything. But it's also good for you, and it's a good thing to be doing. And it's definitely. Like you'd be developing skills that you wouldn't anywhere else.
100%.
You'd be getting yourself into doing things that you wouldn't be doing if you weren't part of it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of the sort of life lessons that I took through skateboarding are the ones that I carry through into my day-to-day life. You know, like you were saying there about, you're not just learning to do a trick, you're not just learning to ride a board, you're learning so much more. You're learning that failure is not only, you know, something that may happen, it's actually an essential part of your learning process in skateboarding. Learning that resilience and that need to pick yourself up and try again is something I take into everyday life. And I think particularly for young people and the kids who I teach skateboarding to, that's probably the most valuable takeaway. They learn that this is going to take work, and it's going to be hard work. And as they go through that process, you can see the confidence build, you can see the self-esteem build because they feel good about themselves. You can see that resilience build as well, you know, and that transcends over into different things. It goes into the classroom, you know, it goes into home life. It doesn't just stay within skateboarding. So, you know, those qualities that we learn through skating, that, you know, they spread into day-to-day life.
I get what you mean.
Definitely.
I'd say it's probably one of the most unique culprits of the sporting world in that sense, because there's no ceiling. When you think about maybe long jump, or like high jump, there's one technique that everybody does. It's called the Fosbury flop, and it is just, it's undisputed until somebody figures out a better way of jumping. You're finished. You just perfect like little details of that. You know, in your run up, in the way that you take off, in the way that you move your body in the air, and things like that. Whereas with skating, it's nothing like that.
No,
you just you know, you go, and there's like this whole. It's like a whole other world, isn't it? It opens up to you when you start getting into it. So let's talk about competing then.
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of the competitions you compete in, we've already ran over it. You compete for 2 minutes. You've got to fill out an entire sort of routine.
That's right.
It's similar to a lot of different sports. They also compete like that, maybe in dance, cheerleading, things like that.
Definitely.
You know, they also, you know, you get a lot of time. You've practice a routine, practice, and you try and nail it on the day, don't you?
Definitely.
But tell us a little bit more about these competitions. How do they feel when you're there? You know, what sort of atmosphere is it?
So I'm incredibly fortunate in that I got into freestyle at a time when it's growing massively, and it's a really good community to be part of. So whenever you head out to a competition, it feels more like a big family reunion. You know, we're all there to hang out, and the contest is almost secondary. You know, we want to go out and compete, and there's no escaping the fact that at the end of the day there's going to be one winner. But we're more there to kind of connect with our friends from around the world, have some fun, and just ultimately just show off what we've been working on for the past year or so, or however long it's been since we competed. So you get generally there's a few different categories that we have in a freestyle contest. You'll have a rookies category, which is people who it might be their first contest. You'll have amateurs. You'll have women and girls as well, which has grown massively. It's incredible to see. Of course, you'll have the pro category, which is the one I enter in, and then you'll have masters. And masters is generally for skaters aged 40 and up, or those who might have competed kind of way back, who are just kind of getting up there. You know, it's guys who've been at it for quite some time. when you go out there, it can be quite a confronting environment, because you've got the you've got people watching, you've got the crowd wherever they're sat, and then it's just yourself and your board and this big expanse of flat ground, and your music comes on, and it's like, right, all you've got to do is skate perfectly for 2 minutes, so it can be really, really affronting. And luckily you get 2 runs. Sometimes you might have different rounds, so you might have like a prelim, semi-finals and finals, but yeah, you just have to get up in that 2 minutes, and you have to put down the best demonstration of your skill. In terms of nerves, it gets nerve-wracking. I don't think there's many athletes who could say honestly that they don't get nervous at all, but it certainly gets better. My first contests were horrendous. Like, I've always struggled with my anxiety, and I really struggle with the fact that I'm being marked against a set criteria on something that I love doing. That sometimes I feel takes away the innocence of it a bit. But yeah, my first contest, I went up there, I landed like 1 trick. I skated badly, and that 2 minutes felt like 2 hours, and I had to do it twice. You know what I mean? And because of that, like I competed a lot. I had a real desire to want to be better at it, and I still placed last a lot for the first good few years of my competing. And then 2022, I took a podium spot at Euro Freestyle, which was at the time the biggest contest in freestyle by numbers of competitors that there had ever been, and that kind of showed me that it was possible, and that I could compete, and that I was capable of doing it. And that's, you only have to do it once to know that it can be done again. And this is what I say to a lot of the kids as well. If they land a trick once, fair enough, it might not mean you've learned it perfectly, but it's possible. So we can work on that, and it builds your confidence. From there, I'd been to hypnotherapy because my nerves were so bad, and so I learned kind of how to manage my nerves, how to reframe things. And then since then, it's been pretty plain sailing competing. I wouldn't say plain sailing, it's still hard work.
Yeah, of course.
It always is, but in terms of my placings, it's got better, and I'm not as nervous. So past 7 out of 8 contests, I think it is, I've been on the podium, which I'd never dreamed of. I'd never thought it was possible going back to even sort of 2019. Because I was competing so badly. So that gave me a lot of confidence, made me feel good, because I always wanted to bridge the gap between skateboarding in practice and skateboarding in the contest. And I feel like I managed to do that. Competing isn't everything.
No, you're right.
But it was something, for a personal goal, it was something I wanted to do. And as I say, it was me versus me. The only reason I want to win a contest is because I never have. Not because I want to beat anyone else, but just because I think that's something I'd like to do. So you get less of the super competitive people in freestyle, I think. Everyone's just there to kind of show the best of their ability and to cheer everyone else along the way as well.
Yeah, because there's no excuses, is there? It's just your board and this slab of concrete, right? You can't be like, oh well, this ramp is...
Sometimes we're freestylers, because we're obsessive over these things, we're quite picky about the floor. You would never... I went to Long Beach for the first time to see some friends over there. And Mike Osterman, who was the friend of mine who I'm staying with, who's a great dude and a really, really talented skateboarder, said, we've got a choice of where you want to skate today. What kind of flat ground do you want? He says, we could go to like a marble spot that's really smooth, or we could go somewhere a bit more grippy. I'm like, man, I'm not used to having a choice. You know what I mean? In the UK, it's all rough and horrible, right? But yeah, we're super picky about the floor. Like, if it's a bit slippy, there's certain tricks that aren't going to work. If it's too rough, there's certain tricks again that won't work. So yeah, less about blaming the ramps, luckily, but quite a bit about blaming the floor itself.
You see, I can see why that would be, because I was watching a few of your videos, and I even showed, honest to God, I went around the entire office, and everyone that was sat in there on that day, I showed them this video one by one, because I was just amazed by it. I was like, I've never seen a skateboard be manipulated in that way in my life.
Cheers.
Because I'm just used to it being flicked or flipped, or spun. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's something like that, or held. You'd never. The only time you'd ever include a pair of trucks in a trick was to grind over something.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd never stand on them.
Yeah, this is it. It's a much different way of, because kind of a lot of people have heard of kind of Rodney Mullen, you know, they've seen that sort of freestyle there, and that's their only introduction to it, but there's so much more out there now, and there was even in the 80s when Mullen was around. That's not to knock on Mullen, you know, he's an incredible skater and everything, but there's so much more, you know, so much more out there. And a lot of freestylers are pushing what we ever thought was possible, you know. Even 5 years ago, there's kids now who are doing tricks where we're looking at it, it's like, that shouldn't really be,
it's beyond physics.
It shouldn't be, it shouldn't work, but it does somehow. So yeah, I still get that same feeling watching people skate freestyle. There's some stuff I see that I just don't understand at all. It's mental, but it does represent a different approach. It's about utilising the board in different ways, and just finding other ways to manipulate it, basically.
It's a very interesting sport. Did you ever have any sort of period where you decided you wanted to skate park, or was that before you tried freestyle?
Yeah, definitely. So I haven't always skated freestyle. I my first sort of good few years of skating really was a bit of a mixture of everything. I used to skate a lot of transitions, so I'd skate a lot of mini ramps and stuff. I'd like skating a bit of street, although I wasn't very good at it. But a lot of like my earlier skateboarding was find something reasonably large and throw yourself off it, you know. And then I was always I was always into the more old school, in inverted commas, skateboarding. And that's what kind of brought me on to freestyle, you know. So I was looking to these older types of skating and seeing what people used to do, and then freestyle kind of stood out to me. And of course I'd seen, you know, the odd clips of Mullen and stuff, because who hadn't? And the more I delved into it, the more I was like, oh, this looks pretty fun, you know, something I could get along with. So I liked that creative approach to it. And then my local skate park got torn down for a refit. So there was no ramps there, and all we had was like a big expanse of flat ground for like quite a long time.
And how old are you at this point?
How old was I then? Must have been like maybe 14 or 15 maybe, something like that. So I'd already been skating a little bit of freestyle, and then that gave me the opportunity to really kind of take it on board and start doing a lot more of it. And then gradually, as time went on, I started skating ramps less and less, and started focusing on freestyle more, just because it's what I enjoyed, basically.
So just so we're clear, and now I'm going to address the actual camera to say this: the way that Denham skates, it is himself, the board, and a piece of flat ground. You could do this in the street outside your house.
Oh yeah, as long as it's flat and smooth.
In the nearest Tesco car park. Maybe not with any cars around. But you could do it. All you would need is any sort of expanse of ground that is flat. And just the willing to get into it and 100%. Try it.
Absolutely. It's such an accessible way to skate. Because the kids who don't have skate parks, the kids who don't live near a skate park or a good skate park, they could take freestyle and they'd be entertained. They'd have something they could work on. And granted, it's not for everyone. Some people want to ride ramps, and that's
exactly.
cool.
Some people want a set of 20 stairs, don't they?
This is it. And this is the thing. It's all about kind of, you know, what people want to do in their skating, but freestyle can be done anywhere. You know, when I go into schools and stuff, a lot of the time what I'm doing is we'll do the skateboard coach, and then I'll do a demo, because 99.9% of the time there was a space where I could do a demo for 2-3 minutes or whatever, and there's gonna be a floor that's suitable, you know. And as long as it's not too slippy or anything, we can do it. Tons of options, and freestyle can be done pretty much everywhere, as long as you've got a nice bit of space and just an alright bit of flat ground.
Fair enough. So in terms of someone that might be thinking about getting into skateboarding, things like that, we spoke a little bit about, you talked about Superman board, or was it Action Man?
Action Man board.
Action Man board,
the Action Man board.
These, I think that growing up, because I had one too. So growing up around this time, you talked about the noughties, and there was like this big skating boom. I think this is where a lot of these terrible, frankly, boards come from around that time, because if I've had one and you've had one, then it must be something to do with the noughties, early 2010s, and all these, you know, everyone jumping in, and there was Tony Hawk Pro Skating, there was just this craze. And so I think there was just a lot of people trying to jump in and make a skateboard that was themed to something that people would buy. But that's not exactly what you want, is it?
Absolutely not. No. So since skateboarding's inception, there's been, and you get it with all trends, people want to cash in, right?
Yeah.
And with skateboarding, there has always been kind of two separate options available for the beginner.
Yeah.
You've had your top of the range, good quality board, and then you've had your biscuit board, which is just horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
False to
is that the name that they've been?
It's not a technical term. It's what I like to use. You know. But yeah, what will happen is a lot of parents, and they do it with the best intentions. Little Johnny or our little Jeanette wants to go buy a skateboard. They're desperate to learn.
Of course.
And mum and dad will go into Smith's or Argos or wherever other toy shops are available, and they'll pick a board based on budget or just whatever they think is right. Because if you don't know any different, that's what you're going to do.
Exactly, one with a Disney princess on
it.
it.
Yeah, 100%. This is it. And that's, it's not their fault. It's just they don't know what to look for. So you'll get lots and lots of kids riding poor quality boards.
Yeah.
They make the learning process really frustrating, and then a month down the line, the board's in the garage, stays there forever before it finally goes to the skip or to the charity shop.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So a lot of the time, what I would say to people is, those poor quality boards are always going to be available. They were probably more prevalent as when we were younger because there were those booms going on.
Yeah.
But nowadays there are so many more options to choose from. My recommendation is always to go to a reputable skate shop if you can, because they support the skate scene, but also they sell things that are good quality, fit for purpose.
And they'll be the people working there will be able to guide you as best they can towards exactly what you need as well, don't they?
Yeah. There's a real culture of in skateboarding of passing it on to the next generation. Yeah. And any skate shop you go into, generally the people there will be super helpful, and they'll just be really happy to see you in there buying a board. It can be sometimes a bit of an affronting environment because you're stepping into something that's almost a separate community in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can guarantee you, 90% of the skate shops you're going to, you're going to get a really warm welcome. You're going to be met by people who are super passionate and enthusiastic, and they will get you something that's going to work, and it's ultimately going to last you that bit longer and stop you getting frustrated with it at the early stages. Yeah,
because that was one thing that I noticed is that these, as you call it, biscuit boards.
Yeah,
they're generally very thicker.
Yeah,
and at least with mine, I don't know. I had a Liverpool FC one.
Oh, fair, classic. Yeah,
it was very thick. The trucks on the bottom, they're made out of plastic.
Yep.
It had a lot of plastic lips and things like that on the bottom. The nose, it wasn't like a curved, almost like a D shape. It was almost like a surfboard, pointed. And then the back was more of a wedge.
Yeah.
It almost imagine a boat. The back of a boat, it's more like a wedge, and then the front is more streamlined, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
It was more like that shape, and I wouldn't be able to quantify it, but how do those things hinder you when you get started?
So yeah, a lot of toy shop boards, you've got hard plastic wheels, you've got plastic trucks. There's no durability there. They don't roll very well either, so you're not going to get a huge amount out of that. And the bearings inside the wheels are just dreadful. They're shot to bits and they'll go all locked up and seized up, which is not great.
Which is also a danger going forward if you want to use it right.
I mean, skateboarding can be risky at the best of times. Why make it worse? You know what I mean? But yeah, a board from a good skate shop or a good quality board, you can have metal trucks, more durable, more response. You're going to have you can have urethane wheels, which are that little bit, more durable again, but they roll better bearings too. They're going to last you a bit longer. When we talk about board shapes, a lot of them model their board shapes on whatever's popular. So the one you were talking about there, Harrison, with the pointy nose and the wedge tail, that's kind of modelled on the penny boards that are really popular. Yeah. But a lot of boards in the 70s were that shape as well.
Okay.
And then your fish boards, like my Action Man board, which I should have brought in from the car, I could have showed it off a bit. But they're like a fish shape.
Yeah.
That was a popular shape in the 80s. And there is still good quality shaped boards available, but you're not going to find them in a toy shop, you know what I mean? So you've got to go to a proper skate shop. There's a lot of different reasons that boards are shaped the way they are. It's for whatever purpose they need to fulfill. My freestyle boards are shorter and narrower because they respond better to my feet. Most street boards are almost symmetrical, like a popsicle shape we call them. That's because you're popping tricks off either side, so they're all built for a specific purpose. For beginners, generally, you're going to go for like a popsicle board, like a normal shape board. But yeah, they the pointy-ended boards certainly aren't always the best ones. You get all sorts of weird shapes.
Yeah, I bet.
It's unusual.
And while we're on the topic of boards, I think I'm gonna stop the recording again.
Oh, cool.
And I think I want to get your boards on camera so you can talk a little bit about them, and then we'll come to an end.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, we'll go grab them.
Oh.
Anyway. Yeah.
So you've brought two boards here. So
I have. Yeah, I've got a couple here. Yeah.
This one is a pro board, and this one is a guest board. Do you want to talk about the sort of differences between them?
Yeah, sure. So my pro model, this one. So when you turn professional skating, I don't know if that's in camera.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, sound good. So yeah, when you turn pro, the company that you ride for, which in my case was Moonshine Skateboards.
Just the mic, yeah.
Oh, there we go. They basically, you turn pro and you'll get a pro deck or a signature model, you might hear it called, and that's where the deck is designed to your specification. You get your own graphic, so you're able to contact someone to make you a graphic up for it, and then they put your name on it. Every time a shop sells one, you make a royalties payment off that as well, so you can make like a little bit of passive income on
very
it.
Good.
And yeah, I fairly recently left Moonshine because I'm going to be starting up my own company. But they made the deck for me. It was perfect. It's still probably one of my favourite boards to ride, to be fair. There's not many of them left now, though. This is probably about the only mint condition one, or definitely the only super mint condition one I've got. Some other people might have them hung up somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sold all over, so a load of different skate shops, in sort of like places like Romania, Japan, made its way out to Canada and the US as well, Australia. So yeah, really cool. One of my biggest achievements. When I was a kid starting skating, and if someone had told me, you're going to have your own pro model with your name on it and there's going to be people riding it, I'd have laughed at them, because it doesn't happen for a lot of skaters. So that's like one of the sort of jewels in the crown of my achievements. I think it was something I was really, really proud of.
No, it's amazing.
And really stoked on. And then so I left Moonshine, and then Decomposed, who are another really reputable freestyle company who've been around for a long time.
Very good.
Wanted to make me a guest model, which is this one. So for the guest model, it's basically like they'll make a board, they'll put your name on it, and I wasn't at a stage where I wanted to ride for anyone because I was working on my own company. So you do a guest model, it's not as much commitment for yourself or the company, but you get to put your name on one of their products. They can then sell that, which is really cool. That one I designed the graphic myself actually for that one, which was awesome. This one's a bit of a different shape.
Yeah, I was going to note that. So this is your specification of board here, whereas that is their, I don't know, maybe one of their models.
Yeah, so models, in freestyle you get a lot of different shapes. I'll hold them up so you can kind of see it, but oh, there we go, clattering around. But yeah, you get a lot of different shaped boards in freestyle, and a lot of it is down to the sort of tricks that you want to do and the sort of things you enjoy. So the squared nose and tail on this one here helps for truck stand tricks, where you're sort of standing on the end of the board, helps it lock in. Conversely, a round nose like that helps for certain flip tricks. Oh yeah. There we go. So a round nose like that can help for certain flip tricks and things like that too.
Nice.
If I hold them that way, it might be tricky to see on the camera, but
you can kind of tell.
You can see like this one here on my right, so that one's concaved, so you've got that dip in the middle of the board that runs through. This one is a bit more flat. So that's another big difference with freestyle boards. Generally we have a lot less concave than a street board, and a lot of them are completely flat. Some don't have any kick on the nose at all, they're just completely flat. Flat nose and then a kick tail. But yeah, having a pro model was really cool. That's definitely something that I never thought I'd ever have. And to this day it baffles me why two companies would want to put my name on a board. But a lot of it is like when you're turning pro, it's not always just about ability, it's about what you can offer that's different. Do you have a different style? Do you have a unique trick selection? but also what do you do for other skateboarders? Are you a good role model? Are you a positive person in the community? A lot of that counts as well, I think. So there's definitely more to turning pro than just the skill itself. Yeah.
So in terms of style, this is kind of personal for me, I forget what it's called, but when you push, there's a right way and there's a still right but wrong way. Do you understand what I'm saying? I do
indeed. So they call you can push normally or you can push Mongo. They call it Mongo. And it's the term Mongo is quite problematic actually, because it actually links back to something quite offensive. So we're trying to sort of change that a little bit, or a lot of skaters are anyway. But Mongo is when you're pushing with the wrong foot. But as you rightly said there, there's, if someone's pushing comfortably, confidently, doesn't really matter how they do it, as long as they're skating, I'm kind of good with that.
Exactly,
So I used to push the wrong way for a huge portion of my skating until I started pushing the other way instead.
What made you switch that then?
So it's just about kind of redialing it, just practicing again, and it's not too difficult to change it out. But I think there's a lot of little things in skateboarding that people pick at, or that skateboarders pick at, when their energy could be invested better elsewhere. You know what I mean? So the ones who are complaining about how someone skates are usually the ones who don't do a lot of skating themselves. So I like to whenever kids come into me and they're saying, they're telling me I can't do this or I can't do this, like, you can skate however you want. It's no one's the skateboard police aren't watching you telling you can't do this or this. You know what I mean? It's about having fun with it, enjoying it, and finding your own way through it. And if you do it a little differently, no problem. I think that's all good.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you very much for your time.
Cool. This has been, no worries, man. No, it's been
one of my favourite conversations that I've had so far on the Athlete Podcast.
Thanks, man.
So you'll be visiting schools with Sports of Champions soon enough. And hopefully delivering some of this knowledge and showing some of the pupils the, quite frankly, insane stuff that you can do with a skateboard that I've had the pleasure, at least, to witness and watch and see it on a phone in front of me. So thank you for your time.
No, thank you, man. It's been fun. Yeah, it's been
awesome.
Good.
And thank you everybody else for joining and listening, and we'll see you next time.